Happy weekend, everyone. It's Invisible Walls, episode 107. I'm Shane Satterfield, editor-in-chief of the site, and we have some big news for you guys. Finally, we're at the place where we can announce some of our E3 coverage. You may have seen the press release yesterday, but just in case you didn't, here's the quick rundown. This year, Microsoft's E3 press conference is going to air live and exclusively on Spike TV, and that is June 14th at 1:30 p.m. Eastern. Do not forget to tune in. In addition to that, there is also a special program that Microsoft has this year with Cirque du Soleil to blow out Project Natal. That will also be broadcast exclusively on MTV and some other partner networks, and it will also be streamed live on GameTrailers.com exclusively. Now, don't freak out. We're also streaming the Nintendo press conference and the Sony press conference live on Game Trailers. We have a really awesome live streaming player. I don't know if you guys checked out the benefit concert for Haiti that MTV did not long ago. There were literally hundreds and hundreds of thousands of people watching that stream, and the thing was rock solid. So you can count on us to make sure we deliver that stuff to you guys first, and in a lot of cases exclusively. We'll have a lot more details on that as E3 comes near, but we were really excited to tell you guys about this stuff. Definitely check out GameTrailers.com at E3. Now it's time for the show, and to do that with me today is Ryan Stevens.
Yo.
Daniel Bloodworth.
What's happening?
And Brooks. What's up, Brooks?
Oh, you're kind of sick, aren't you?
Yeah, I'm feeling a little sick. Last week it was my allergies. This week it's a cold. I'd rather get it now before E3. Although next week is E3 Judges Week, so it's going to be a bit of a grind. Hopefully I can get over this.
Get that out of the way.
Everybody just scattered a good 10 feet away from me here at the recording, and I don't blame them one bit. Anyway, we got a lot to get to. Invisible Walls, episode 107 is ready for takeoff.
Baker Skateboards, Avery Kennedy and Andrew Reynolds. Dance to the boss.
All right, first we're going to talk about Skate 3. Now, me being a former skater, in fact, I did just buy a new skateboard not long ago. They built a brand new skate park here in Venice, and that inspired me to get on board again. Can't say I've really gone crazy with it yet. I'm a little nervous. It's been a while, so I'm not trying to ollie over like bike racks or anything like that yet.
But you could do the snake run, right, at least?
Oh, yeah. I mean, I go
run.
and I skate. I can carve and pump the bowls and run the snake run. I was more of a street skater when I skated, and I haven't really gone out and really went balls out on that yet. I'm trying to gather up the courage. I'm still a little tentative on the board.
Are you too cool to wear a helmet, or do you insist on wearing a helmet?
I do not wear a helmet, no.
Gotta watch
but
the
like I said, I'm not going crazy yet. Yeah. Anyway, this is a video game show. Let's talk about the video game Skate 3. As you might guess, since skating has been a big part of my past, I always end up reviewing these games. I would say the first Skate, I wasn't completely on board with a lot of people. A lot of people heralded it as the next coming of the skateboarding game. And while I liked the controls, being someone who did skate, and I appreciated that it was very realistic, I was not a fan of all the tricks that were left out. I felt like you couldn't accurately perform the exact trick that you wanted. And in the first game, it asked you to do that a lot. Second game, cut a lot of it out. Third game, there's really none of that at all. They never ask you to do some crazy maneuver down a rail or anything like that. They've really opened it up, and in all honesty, I think the game is a lot easier. Brooks, you played a little bit of it, right? You're capturing some footage.
Yeah.
What are sort of your impressions of it so far?
Oh, I still have a good time playing the game. I still think it is easier, like you were saying. And they did introduce a new move, the Dark Slide. It's a modifier button and easy to execute, but there's only so many commands you could issue off the right analog stick, I think.
Well, I mean, I think we talked about this on the show before, in fact, is that it's like, the difference between one trick and another can be literally a quarter of a turn on the
it's less than a
stick.
quarter.
Sometimes it's like 2 degrees.
The radial, like it's like I'm drawing with my hand that no one can see, but it'd be like a little tick like this versus a little tick like that on like the analog stick.
Right, when you're trying to get speed and line up for a hit and make sure your timing is right, that 2 degrees different, it's almost impossible. I remember the last game, we sat around and tried one trick for like an hour and a half straight, and none of us could land it. So it's a good thing that they've definitely done away with that stuff. But the other flip side of that is the game is almost too easy. There are some bugs in the game. Sometimes with photo challenges, they'll say, okay, I'm going to set up my camera here. Now I want you to do a trick across this gap or grind this rail or whatever. There were times where I would just ride in front of the camera and it would say, okay, great job. And it would just take a picture of me riding on the flat ground.
And you never even jumped or did a trick or anything?
No, there are other times where I'd just ollie up onto the platform I was supposed to be doing a trick on and just turn, and it would say, great job. So not only have they made the game easier, the bugs in the game allow you to pass some of the objectives without much resistance.
I guess my big question is, you have to, when you talk about skateboarding games, you have to talk about Tony Hawk, and like Tony Hawk 1, amazing. Tony Hawk 2, super amazing. 3, pretty cool. Thug, American Wasteland, plastic piece of shit last year.
Oh, Project 8. I think Project 8 was pretty good.
Now we've seen 3 years and 3 skates, all from the same studio. Do you think it's, and I hear you say there's a ton of bugs. Do you think they're kind of hitting that kind of feature creep fatigue?
Well, I think Skate is falling into the same exact trap at this point as Tony Hawk did. You know, it was moderately successful, and they actually waited a couple years between the first and the second, but now it's only been 12 months since the last one came out. So it looks like they're starting to try to release this game every year. And yeah, I mean, the changes from 1 to 2 versus 2 to 3, there aren't that many changes in the third game. Like Brooks mentioned, the one lone trick addition was Dark Slides, which is okay.
And they tweaked some of the on-foot controls. I felt much happier with the on-foot
controls are like night and day compared to Skate 2. They're great now. You can, and they even work that into some of the objectives. Some of the objectives, you have skate competitions, and it's like a best trick competition on this one particular rail. So what you do is you'll skate up to the rail, you'll do your trick, land at the bottom, hop off your board, and then run back up the stairs to try it again. And you see the AI doing this, it kind of encourages you. And that's how you skate. You know, you try a trick, you pick up your board, you walk back up the stairs, and you do it again. So the fact that they fixed the off-board stuff has made a huge
It's quicker.
difference.
You could run upstairs much faster. It doesn't feel like such a burden when you're not on your board.
And you can even do caveman slides, which is cool. You can just run up to a rail on foot and then throw the board on the rail, jump on the board, and slide down it. Now, the biggest change, I think, though, in the game is online cooperative campaign. So basically how it works is people can jump in and work with you to complete some of the objectives in the game. There are team objectives. There's races where there's 2 guys from your team and 2 guys from another team, and they sort of take the aggregate between your 2 teams to crown the winner. You can do it with AI as you play through the campaign and you reach certain milestones, and the milestones in the game are board sales. So this isn't one of those rag to riches type skateboarding stories. This is basically you're already a big skateboarder, you're starting your own company, and all your milestones are measured in board sales. So as you complete things, you sell another 10,000 boards, blah, blah, blah. And as you hit those milestones, you unlock teammates that you can use as AI, or you can have your friends come on and play with you online. And when you complete one of these missions with somebody online, it actually gives you a little bonus in board sales for doing the various things online. Now, where online really shines for me is in a mode called 1-Up, and that's basically where you take turns trying to one-up each other. So say I go first. I do a front side lip slide down a handrail. I get a certain amount of points for it. Then my competitor, and they have to wait and watch me. So then my competitor gets a chance to one-up that trick, and it keeps going back and forth until one of you fails.
Isn't that a little bit like Horse from the Tony Hawk games, though?
A little bit, yeah. But what's cool about this is that when you're doing it, you're the only one. So everyone else who is competing in this is watching you. So you feel like as you're skating up to that rail that all these other people are watching you. It puts the pressure on. And they can also talk trash to you while you're doing it. So take the headset off and try to completely forget about the fact that there are other humans there. But that's probably the biggest change, the cooperative slash competitive online element. And otherwise, I mean, it's pretty much the same as Skate 2. A little refinements here and there, but not a whole lot. It plays very similar. It still feels great. You know, it still feels realistic. The flick it controls I love despite their lack of sort of pinpoint accuracy. But I think if I had to sort of sum it up, I would say if you're really into skateboarding, you live the skateboard lifestyle, you're a skater, you've been a skater, buy the game, you won't regret it. If you're more of a casual fan who picked up maybe one of the first 2 skates because you kind of like the sport or you just think that you love the Tony Hawk games, I would definitely give this one a rent before buying it, especially if you bought Skate 2, because the improvements from Skate 2 are very minimal. Now, if you're the person who bought Skate 1, skip Skate 2, then I think maybe you should probably bump it up in your queue a little bit to buy Skate 3 because it is undoubtedly the best game in the series so far. All right, next we're going to talk about Epic's next game. We just saw the first trailer for it. We saw some screenshots before. Bulletstorm.
Yeah.
Blood, you went to check this game out in person.
Yeah, I went up. They had a live demo. They had Cliff B and Tanya Jessen, who is the lead producer on Epic's side. They're working with People Can Fly in Poland, who did Painkiller and did the Gears of War PC port. It's, I mean, the simplest way that they describe it is it's kind of like the burnout of FPS games. You know, it's all about having fun and doing crazy tricks and racking up points.
So there's some kind of a combo meter that works throughout all the combat?
Not so much a meter, but like the more extreme combos that you do will give you more points, and then you spend those points on like upgrades and new weapons and things like that.
What's an example of an extreme combo?
An example of an extreme combo would one of their favorite one was shooting a guy's balls off and then kicking him in his face, and they called that mercy. And there's
That's only a 2-hit combo. I mean, are there more elaborate ones than that?
yeah, I'm sure that there are. I mean, there's things where like they have these exploding trash cans that are shaped like soccer balls. So you know, there's a lot of things in there with momentum. You actually have physical moves like you can kick things, and you have like a Mega Man slide, so you can slide into people or slide under brush. And when you do that, it actually puts like this little like slow-mo effect just on that person or that object, and that gives you time to juggle them and do something else with them. You can knock them into impalables like giant cactuses. You can like knock them into the air and then like kick the soccer ball and blow them up in the air, and then their body parts will rain down. And you also have this your left hand, you have a leash that's, you know, kind of goes out and grabs guys and pulls them towards you. And you can carry 2 weapons at a time. So you have like your normal assault rifle, and one of your upgrade things with your assault rifle is like I forget what they called it, but it basically you compresses like 100 bullets into one shot. So you shoot the guy, and then all that's left is a hot skeleton, and then that turns into ash.
Wow. Now, based upon the presentation and things like that, or maybe he even mentioned it, how much input did Cliffy B / Dude Huge have in the development of this game?
He says he plays it like 3 to 4 times a week, and you know, he's always sending them feedback and notes
From the gym.
You know, and people are, you know, they're
While he's at the gym.
because it's so, you know, crazy. Like people are constantly like, you know, brainstorming ideas and then like putting them in a white room and then saying like, okay, does this interact with this idea and does it interact with that idea? And like it's really, they're testing out all the variables to make sure they kind of get some of the coolest stuff into the game. And one of their lead artists is over there in Poland with the team, and so it really like. Already at this point, it's the first time we've seen it. It already looks very visually impressive with like huge vistas and you know, really strong polygon models and like a lot of just stuff flying around, dust and debris everywhere.
How fast?
Colors? Is there color?
Yeah, there's a lot of color. It's actually the planet it's an abandoned tourist world. Something happened and like all the plants and stuff started mutating and eating people and things. So. I know when I first saw the screenshots, I kind of described it as Gears of War in Florida.
Yeah.
Because it has some of that, you know, I think it has some of the same architecture with a lot of stone architecture, but it does have a lot of plant life and stuff happening.
What is the story? I don't think we talked about that.
The story is you're kind of like a rogue. You were in like this military force before, and stuff happened, and you end up becoming a pirate, and it's kind of a Han Solo-ish kind of character, and like he sees an opportunity to get revenge on the guys that kind of backstabbed him, and so he takes his little ship and he attacks their cruiser, and then the result is that everybody crash lands on this planet, and so he kind of has to make up for his mistakes and also fight his way through all of these enemies that are there too.
Cover system in the game.
I don't think so.
Yeah.
Because it's a first-person game, and they're wanting you to, you know, do more extreme things. You know, it's more based on momentum and upgrades. Like all of your moves can be upgraded. Like your leash can be upgraded to where it does a ground pound effect. So everything that's in the area will fly up into the air. So you can ground pound, and then it'll explode, and everything will kind of chain and combo off of each other. They also are, you know, because, you know, both teams have done a lot of crazy stuff with weapons in the past with Unreal and Painkiller. They only showed one weapon so far, but it was they called it the flail gun. And it's basically 2 grenades chained together. And so you can use that to like wrap it around somebody's head or somebody's ankles, or you can shoot the chain in such a way that it will like cut somebody straight in half.
Wow.
You know, you can wrap it around another exploding object and then kick the object at somebody. And
Sounds like there's a lot of flexibility in how you take people out.
yeah, you know, and then the slide, they were using the slide in the environment to go under brush, and they said that can be upgraded. Or if you're in like a muddy area, you'll get a longer slide to dodge enemies and things like that.
Did it sound like you'll have control over your upgrades? Like how well you do, you spend points? Or is it more
Yeah,
like
you spend
items?
points, you decide
Okay.
what you're going to upgrade.
So this is the RPG element Cliffy's been talking about for a while.
That's probably it.
So sounds pretty freaking awesome to me.
Yeah, I want to play a demo.
Yeah.
Yeah, they'll have a demo at E3.
Any word about multiplayer yet?
I don't think so. They said that there's going to be multiplayer, but they're not talking
It's a
about
perfect formula for multiplayer. I mean,
Yeah,
everything you're
I'm
talking
sure
about is,
Dude,
I'm
that could be
picturing it right
insane.
in my
it. Like
head
if you think
now it's
about
going.
Burnout's Crash Mode,
Yeah.
you know, or
The club
Club.
wasn't a bad game.
Well, I also thought it's kind of like Manhunt, or not Manhunt, but Mad World.
Oh.
You know, but no, without that whole game show.
Was there like an on-screen score?
Yeah,
Is
it does
score
kind of
coming back.
It does the Borderlands score kind of thing where it's like in the game and like right above the guy's head. They're also the HUD's not fully in place yet, but they're trying to kind of do some of the similar things that Dead Space did with like the 3D HUD in game.
Awesome.
So
Co-op?
again, they weren't talking multiplayer at all. So, but it kind of hints at it because there's a lot of times when there's a partner alongside of you, kind of telling you what to do or whatever, and as they said, like they're really big with co-op and Gears, so you can kind of expect that.
When is it coming and which platforms? Is this a 360 exclusive?
No, this is 360 and PS3, and it's coming next year. 2011 is all they would really say.
If anyone is to blame for these events, Mr. Thornton, it is you.
All right, the next game we're going to talk about is a game that was kind of on everyone's radar last year. Then it was sort of unexpectedly delayed. Now it's back again.
What game is this?
Alpha Protocol.
Alpha Protocol with Michael Thornton.
Brooks,
So-
you've been playing it. You actually took care of our preview that
Yes,
went up
I
on the
did.
site this week.
I went up and I did that preview for you guys.
For you guys. You mean for us?
No, for the fans, everybody out there watching. I hope you
He didn't do
appreciate
it for
it.
himself. That's what he's saying.
Yeah. So what are your impressions of it? You know, obviously it has a little bit of that Knights of the Old Republic.
Feelish. It's a little Mass Effect.
Mass
too.
Effect.
Yeah, it's a tactical shooter, espionage-based stealth with RPG elements. So it combines all three of these things and throws it in the blender, and you got this secret agency known as Alpha Protocol, and you are a secret agent, Michael Thornton, working for them.
Is it a Canadian agency by any chance?
I couldn't confirm on that. It's a secret. And the game starts out story-wise that a commercial jet gets shot down by these missiles. And then everybody's, wondering who did this, which terrorist organization is responsible for that. And so Michael Thornton steps up, and he is in charge of finding out what's going on. He goes to Saudi Arabia, and he looks at these like weapons dealers, and he's like these drug cartel guys. And so the mission structure is it's there.
Now, most of
sorry.
the games we've played like this so far have been sci-fi based. How
Yeah.
does it change when you sort of bring in like the real
The
world?
spy element?
Yeah.
Yeah, the spy element, all your weapons obviously are catered to what you'd see in real life, first of all. You're not going to get any
Machine
of these
guns,
sci-fi.
shotguns,
Yeah.
all-
And then the
pistols.
gadgets are a handful of grenades. And then he's a lot like Jason Bourne, so he has a lot of melee combats hand-to-hand. And as you go through a lot of the missions, there's surveillance cameras, armed guards, and then you're going to have to tweak the camera system security so you could hack those computers, and then you could also pick locks.
How twitchy is the combat? I mean, you hear action RPG, and you kind of think like maybe Zelda or like Nier that just came out, but then when you hear like action RPG with guns, it comes kind of, other than Mass Effect and Mass Effect 2, it's a little more abstract. I mean, is it twitchy, or is it still
No,
like
it's not-
rolling a lot of dice, or
No, it's not very twitchy. It's actually because it utilizes a cover system. You can find areas in the game. It's a little iffy where and when you can take cover.
But
That's
it's all
the
real
little
time,
problem.
right?
Yeah, everything
Combat?
is in real time.
The hand-to-hand stuff's pretty crazy, in all honesty. Like, I didn't expect a game like that to have such sort of immediate physical contact.
It really does get the job done too. When you're in close quarters and you run up, you can just smash the B button, and next thing you know, you are taking these guys out. But getting back to the gunplay is earlier in the game, you definitely don't have the accuracy or the damage. So as you progress through the game and you spend your points and allocate that stuff, like the RPG elements come through, you do get that better accuracy, and you do have the ability to, if you do aim on an enemy, the reticle will change colors and actually have like a pinpoint, so you can get a better shot off.
Now, what about kind of like dialogue systems and stuff like that? Because I think a spy kind of
Oh yeah, it's
lends itself to that a lot more than some of these other roles.
It's really big on the whole dialogue tree, and you do meet a lot of characters, a lot of NPCs throughout the story. And your decisions, which is kind of cool, actually reflect on the outcome of the game. And it does give you the option if you want to kill people, if you want to detain them or arrest them. And for the sake of the preview, I decided not to kill anybody who was being good. And that's because I was hoping to get allies later in the game, which proved to be true. Once I didn't kill this one girl, she showed up later, and she was helping me watch my back on another mission. So I thought that was kind of interesting.
How much
Fitting
do the
her.
paths branch depending on the decisions you make?
I could see it going one of 3 different ways.
Yeah.
Really, because you do have those options to kill, to arrest, or to just save their lives or make a deal with them. So based on those decisions,
That's better than the normal binary choices you're given.
Yeah.
Trinary now.
And because a lot of characters are linked to one another in some way. Say you kill off somebody's friend later on the road, you automatically made an enemy with that person. So
Do those partnerships, do they have like unique abilities like explosives or anything like that? Or
so far I haven't seen anything like that. I'm still
Okay.
fairly early in the game.
So they've been, I mean, their PR swill has been, you know, Bourne, Bond, and Bauer. And
From 24?
yeah. So I've kind of heard you. I mean, you definitely mentioned you actually called out Bourne yourself, and some of the dialogue stuff sounds a little bit like the guy from 24. But focusing on James Bond, are there any ladies?
Oh. Well, you do have Mina. She's your primary contact across your PDA, and you do flirt with her a little
Public
bit.
displays of affection.
Yeah. And then there's another fiery hot redhead that you meet on the airplane, but she hasn't really come into the story too much. So there are a few ladies. I did see another chick who was a bad girl. So yeah, you definitely have your share of women, but they're not gonna declothe for you, Ryan. Sorry.
Achievement. Not unlocked.
Brooks, do you know that for a fact?
Have they met me?
Do not know that for a
I'm a
fact, but I
swell
can
guy.
assume. And then another thing that kids were asking about online was you can change his appearance. People were wondering about that because he does
can
look
or
fairly
can't?
generic. You can.
Oh.
So at the very beginning of the game, you have the option to give him a full 5 o'clock shadow, a beard, change his hair up, his eye color.
break his nose?
You cannot change his voice. That'll stay, unfortunately. But yeah, you can make your field agent as you see fit, and you could even equip them with articles and accessories of clothing.
How does leveling up work? Can you choose
It's
which
all-
attributes you want to improve?
Yeah,
or does it
yeah,
happen
it's all
automatically?
automatically as you go through the game. But then once you get those points, you could delegate how you see fit. You could go across. I think there's about 8 or 9 different categories, and it's everything from increasing your stealth, the various weapon types. So yeah, pistol, shotgun, and machine gun. And you can improve your melee attacks, your armor abilities, and your ability to hack computers and whatnot.
Now, you know, people have been waiting a while for this game. They had
Yes.
to delay it. Does it look like all this time has been worth it? Did you really enjoy it? And keep in mind, this is a preview build.
Right.
So, but did you enjoy your time with Alpha Protocol?
It definitely rubbed me the wrong way in the initial when I first picked it up, but I grew to like it more and more as I played through it and got to respect it a little bit more, and I had some fun with it.
We're about to shut down a rogue Iron Man program before it has a chance to get anybody killed.
Next up is On the Hook, and I have to say this may be the best question we've ever got from our users. We need to like put up some sound effect right there. Dun, da, da, da.
It was bound to happen. It was going to happen sooner or later.
No, we usually get good questions. This is a really, really good one. Ryan, you want to read it?
This is from, and I think I'm going to pronounce this correctly.
Yes. What is this?
Is it John Sonic 7? I think is how you pronounce that.
Steven.
He writes, how do you think a bad game made today, id est Iron Man 2, would have been perceived, judged 10 years ago? Or how do you think a great game of today will be judged 10 years from now? Wow. Da da da.
Well, I think on the surface level, visuals, obviously. I think old 2D games hold up. Old 3D games don't necessarily.
Oh, yeah, totally. I don't think there's any necessary about it.
So I think a game like Iron Man 2 10 years from now, it kind of looks bad now. It's going to look really bad 10 years from now.
Kind of
Yeah.
looks bad now.
Yeah,
But I
I'm,
think-
I'm trying to be kind.
There's some.
But I think
it
that-
looks
I
like
think that-
zombies in that game.
The future stuff, I think you kind of hit the nail on the head. I mean, there will be some games that are, like we were just playing Panzer Dragoon Saga, kind of an eyesore, still has some fun mechanics, a little hard to kind of get through it. But I like the looking back question way more.
Yeah.
I think if Iron Man 2 had come out, if that had been like, Fallen from the Skies or something like that.
Well, 10 years ago would have been the year
90.
2000. So that's after
God.
that's after Ocarina of Time. So you'd already kind of had the
Well, I think a comparable thing would probably be Rogue Squadron, right?
Right, I'm just saying that there are certain elements of games that had been established at that point
Yeah.
and how they handle in 3D. So,
People would say, wow, look at these graphics, and
Wow.
be like, this plays poorly.
well, I think they would say that if they saw screenshots of the game, they'd say, "Oh, those are bullshots," obviously, because the technology. I don't even.
I
Think
don't
the
think that
PC
phrase was around back then.
You're
though.
right. I don't even think PC technology could display a game like Iron Man 2
In 2000,
in
probably
2000.
not.
Well, what do
Even
you
the
think they
best
would
rig.
score it back then, 10 years ago? What score would Iron Man 2 get?
It would have scored slightly higher.
Yeah,
Oh,
I
it
bet.
definitely would have scored higher.
because
If
we
only
gave it
for
a
presentation.
3.8. So
It
back
would have
then-
probably would have gotten probably in the like on a 10-point
6.
scale, like in maybe the 5s. I mean, horrible is horrible.
I mean, I don't
Yeah.
know. There are some outlets out there that can be hoodwinked pretty easily.
You know, I look at a lot of launch titles that kind of get a launch title bump sometimes.
Right.
And a lot of that is technology, and technology is one of the first things to fade away from a game versus like its gameplay and its playability, and those are kind of the same thing. But just like how much fun a game is.
Yeah.
But like even back in the day, there was a game called Rise of the Robots,
Oh, I remember
which
that.
it was a fighting game that was all pre-rendered. So they rendered all the frames, kind of like they did with
Yeah, the
Donkey
screenshots
Kong
looked
Country.
amazing.
Oh my god, people were like saliva.
What system was it on? The Jaguar?
No, it was
Super NES
SNES
and
and
Genesis?
Probably
Yeah.
Genesis.
Oh,
and
okay.
it was it was abysmal, and people judged it as like people were able to look at something with at the time amazing graphics, looked nuts, and were able to say this is horrible. You couldn't jump over the opponent; you were always facing one direction. You couldn't even
Right.
flip the sprite to look the other way. So I would like to say I think tech can give you a small bump, but I don't think it would candy coat a score too much.
Well, bad design is bad design. Always has been, always will be. Bad gameplay is bad gameplay. Always has been, always will be. Those are two things that the technology really can't bump or adjust. Either you know how to design a level and design a game, or you don't. And I think that's where this discrepancy would come in here. I think this game would still get railed on, even despite its visuals 10 years ago.
I think since it's not the most difficult game, I think a lot of people would kind of suffer through it maybe more easily just to see more of the technical marvels
Right.
of
The
it.
boss
Especially since
fights.
it's like 3.5 hours.
Right.
Yeah, exactly. Well, like flying in midair, like we would take that kind of for granted for now. But like back then, like jetpacks were kind of around. But I mean, honestly, probably the fluidity of the backpack is something we take for granted now. But it's not, not the worst thing in the world.
I mean, people's faces would have melted off if they saw this game back in 2000, I think. People would have freaked out. If they had shown it at like a press conference at E3 and just shown a trailer, people would have lost their frickin' minds.
Mm-hmm.
But ultimately, they're going to have to play it, and hopefully you got to count on the critics at that point to sort of call a spade and say this game's a piece of crap, but maybe you play it to watch.
And looking at things, like you said, the 3D versus 2D, I think, Daniel, you play a lot of virtual console games.
Yeah.
A lot of 2D games, they still look good. They're simple, but they don't, they're not an eyesore. I downloaded some PS1 games on the PSN, and it's few and far between where they're still fun, but man, it is aggravating sometimes.
Here's some irony. I think 10 years from now, some of the games that are going to hold up the best are going to be the DLC indie games. The ones where they really go for a really cool art
Aesthetic,
style.
yeah.
Instead of worrying about, how many polys can we push. I think those are the games, ironically, even more than some of the blockbusters that have come out now that we'll be able to look at 10 years from now and say, that's one of the better looking games from that generation.
But on the flip side, there's always going to be, I think, a couple of exceptions. And I mean, I don't hate to toot Mario's horn, but Mario 64 with its simplistic, kind of flat shading and stuff, the poly count's low, but the animations, they're still great.
I can still play that game, no problem.
It like simple polygons, but
as long as it's clean. Like,
yeah,
I can't
exactly.
play-
In some ways, it's
I can't play a lot of old PlayStation 1
those
games.
muddy textures.
Oh,
Yeah,
and the
it's just-
texture seams and the flickery textures. I mean, those games were just, it's like they barely got it to work. And they're like, all right, we made a 3D game.
There's some things, I mean, because I just went back, this fall and played through Final Fantasy 8 and 9, and there's some things that impressed me with those, as far as like just the way that they kind of seamlessly integrated the video with the real-time stuff. And it's like, okay, the video sequence pushes them onto the beach and they keep going and now you're in control. I'm like, wait, where was the transition there?
That's when Squaresoft was on its game.
Yeah.
I mean, that's when they were really at their pinnacle. I was kind of disappointed now that I've played a good bit of Final Fantasy 13 to see how much that developer has changed in the last 10 years. Kind of sad. In all
Yeah,
honesty.
I mean, a lot of it has to do with just all the people who have left.
Yeah. I mean, you can't, you can get a name, but you don't get the talent that made that name what it is. And I think we've seen a lot of publishers and developers sort of suffer that over the last few years. But John Sonic 7, awesome question, man. Really, it had us going. We talked about this the last couple of days around the office. We're really excited to talk about it on the show. Thank you so much. Let's see who can one-up John Sonic 7.
Great effort.
So this week, EA sort of announced an initiative that it believes will sort of stem the sales of used games. And basically what they're doing is they're going to ship every one of their sports games that has an online component with a code. When you get the game, you put the code in. That's what activates your ability to be able to play that game on PlayStation Network or Xbox Live. Now, once you've activated that code, that's it. So if you sell the game back to somebody and somebody buys a used copy of the game, that person's then going to have to spend $10 to activate the online functionality. So we're just going to go around the horn really quickly and get your impressions of this. It's a very deep topic. We could probably talk about it for 30 minutes, but I'm going to give you one. Ryan Stevens.
Business-wise, it's smart. I'm wondering if the game stops and whatnots are going to reduce prices on the used games to kind of counteract it. From a player perspective, as always, you feel like this big guy's pushing on you. But obviously, used games are a huge, huge industry and kind of rub both ways for a lot of the industry. Still waiting for I think it was what's his name, Mark Rain from Epic, who said he was gonna put the endings, the last chapter of a game would be the DLC with the code.
Brutal.
I think that may be where the line is crossed, but I'm not overly surprised. It is what it is. I don't play sports games, so I can't get too.
But
worked
it already
up.
happened in Battlefield,
I didn't even know about that.
and you can
play
probably
Battlefield.
see this going to seep into other genres going forward.
Yeah. Well, and Mass Effect 2 had it with the Cerberus network. I think we're just going to see this more and more. They're going to boil the frog, get used to it, or start an online petition that won't go anywhere.
And you get 300 signatures. Bloodworth.
Yeah, I still feel like people aren't thinking about the way it hits people that aren't even doing this. You know, like if I want to take the game over to my friend's house and show it off and play it with them, like, okay, now I have to take my whole Xbox. I don't even want to do that. You know, it's like, you know, and this whole thing that people,
Especially with that genre in particular.
Yeah, I mean,
Sports
that's-
games. Like
Yeah.
you take
you're
your
gonna
game
be
of
doing
Madden
that.
over and you want, I can't tell you how many times, like if I'm going to hang out with some of my friends that are more casual players, I'm going to hang out with them and play games. I don't bring the hardcore games with me. I bring Madden, I bring NHL, I bring FIFA.
yeah, and you think about that. I mean, there's obviously a potential for them to lose sales ultimately because, you know, you take that over, there's like 12 guys hanging out at a party playing this game. But because, you know, you were too lazy to disconnect your system, now that doesn't happen, and those guys, you know, don't get interested in the game and don't pick it up.
I think they also said that if you get the game used, they're going to give you like a 9-hour or 7-hour period where you can sort of experience the online before you pay for it. So there's that little buffer zone in between. Still not very good.
Yeah.
Huber.
All right. Well, don't rake me over the coals for this. I kind of agree with Pactor just a teeny bit that it does help provide server support for the games and like keeping that.
Do they need server support for the? I mean, they
It
seem to run
depends
okay
on
to
the
me.
game.
But
Yeah.
Well,
they
the
don't even
problem
run
is-
12 months anymore, right? Wasn't Madden last year just ran for
it's
11
a year
months?
by year basis how it works.
Yeah, well, the thing is, too,
It could just
though,
be an excuse.
if
but
you have Xbox Live, you're already paying, so
that
that's another issue.
astronomical fee.
I think it's going to hurt EA in the long run. I don't think what they realize is that a lot of people will only buy those yearly sports releases because they can trade in the year prior and get a little bit of credit towards that. The value of that trade-in, if there's no ability to play online, is going to go down. So these people are going to get less money for that trade-in that they've been...
Well, sports games already have the least amount of trade-in. I mean, they have
Their value
the
drops
quickest,
faster
Yeah,
than-
quickest devaluation.
and it's going to make it worse. So, you know, that's 10, 15 bucks that you had for people to start with their purchase of Madden before. Now they don't have that. I think it could backfire on EA in all honesty in sports games. I don't think the irony here is that for shooters and things like that, like people don't really sell those games anyway. So I think maybe they started with the wrong sort of products on this and maybe should have used shooters and action adventure games as the litmus test instead of going straight to the core of their business, which could have huge, huge repercussions. All right, that's going to do it for episode 107 here on GameTrailers.com. We gave you a little bit of info about E3 at the top of the show. There is a lot more to come, but trust me when I tell you that we are going to be the spot to come for E3 coverage. I promise you that personally. From all the boys here at Invisible Walls, we are up and we are out.